Looks like that Easter Bunny may have some surprises for Bitcoin Boolahs out there tomorrow.
Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let me.
Well, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. It is a very early Saturday morning over here from Helsinki, Finland. We'll see when this video gets out, and holy shit, there's nothing on my screen. Hold on, OBS is just loading right now. Perhaps it'll come on in exactly when it's ready. This typically happens on my first recording of the day, so we'll see if this goes well. I guess I'll take a second here to make sure that I'm recording. I am recording, and my microphone's working as well. That's excellent, that's good, that's great. Can't show you what's on the Krown Street application because OBS seems to me like it doesn't want to actually work right now. But with that said, I'd like to take a second to wish you a very happy and healthy start to your Saturday morning over here. And while we're all on quarantine lockdown, I should also say that the Twitch streams will be going, of course, today as well. Just need to eat some steak, and then I'm good to go for another 8-hour session. Perhaps we've been having some epically long and epic conversations in these sessions, so you're more than welcome to join on in. The link's in the description below. Motherfucker, could you load this page for God's sakes, OBS? I don't pay you 0.0 nanos per hour for fucking nothing. Jesus Christ, man, this is absolutely infuriating right now. It's like you just want technology to work. What is going on here? Come on, man. What the fuck? There it is. Yes. There it is. Okay, if you just complain enough, then things will come your way. It's like the natural way of modern day. Anyways, we have a lot to talk about today as Bitcoin did take that southern road that we spoke about yesterday. But there is a big concern here if you are looking for further continuation of the downside, more immediately speaking. As this is a weekend, and I do have to stick true with what I've been saying, that I am very cautious against reversals alongside the overall week's trend during the weekend. So with that said, that's going to tie into our analysis today. But for right now, I want to put the focus on the open interest chart right here. As we do see that the open interest has actually shot up yesterday. We even saw it go above about 700 million, and that is a massive differential between what we've been seeing for the last few weeks, kind of hovering between the 550 million to the 650 million on the upper end. So we are seeing a little bit of a change of behavior here, which is what you would expect when Bitcoin is starting to move a little bit in price action. So all of this starting to really work together, and this is what I really want to reference, and more importantly, I think of interest for a lot of people out there, myself included, as this app is like literally just what dreams are made of. We will be having the open interest chart be published live tomorrow, Sunday night, maybe Monday morning, depending upon where you are in this world, but it will be rolled out with the next update, and then another update to come later this coming week. So a lot to come, and a lot to really be happy about, at least for myself. It's an Easter gift from us to you, and well, use it wisely. Anyways, looking at the open interest, yes, we did shoot up as Bitcoin price action turning down, volatility expanding on the lower term time frames, and that's essentially what we're looking for to kind of confirm this as a legitimate move, which is contrary to my overall idea that not typically, but we've just never seen a prolonged reversal from weekend price action. We have seen, continuation on the weekend, but we have not seen a reversal going all the way back to when CME started in late 2017. Focus today is going to be on the shorter term time frames. There's nothing really changed from the medium and higher term time frames. But other than that, let's put the focus on all the other metrics outlining the top side right here. Bitcoin dominance steady once again. Total market cap steady once again. Fear and greed index ticking down a little bit here after that drop from about 74 to where we are right now at about 69. Great number. But overall, I do still think it's worth mentioning that the fear and greed index being this low, while Bitcoin price action is quite literally doubled off the lows, is still probably the most bullish thing to me overall that's not included in price action. But of course, at the end of the day, what matters most, price action. And with that said, let's go take a look at the good old charts right over here. I just want to double make sure that I am actually looking at the right thing. Holy shit, man, it's actually not even updated right now. Motherfucker, OBS. There we go. Okay, beautiful. Let's see. Is it going to be responsive? Okay, it is responsive right now. Okay, great. Anyways, looking at Bitcoin on the daily. Oh, and we have a couple new tools for Mr. Bali himself, the goddamn myth, the legend, and once again coming through with some massive new tools. Anyways, I'll save that for a little bit later. But looking at the daily right here, Bitcoin did close below the 10 simple, currently hanging around the 21 exponential moving average on the daily. And realistically, this offers up the next big piece of edge that I'd be looking for from a more medium term time frame perspective. I did have a channel drawn out here on our GDAX chart coming in actually yesterday right around the 21 exponential moving average, which technically speaking we did close below, or sorry, the 10 simple moving average, which we did close below, of course. But with that said, I don't trust diagonal trend lines all that much, especially ones that go this far about. It does give an overall bias to the price action, as we do see a little bit of redistribution formations in this price action right here, especially as volume kind of confirms this as a nice tailing off signature, which confirms this is one piece of the whole pie. More importantly, it is mediated or further confirmed, perhaps I would say primarily confirmed by the historical volatility percentile read down here, as that has been steadily contracting ever since when? Ever since March 13th. Which suggests that all of this price action right here coming off the lows is still of the same signature, which implies that this is likely redistribution, especially when it is in the context of a rising channel or rising wedge, whatever the fuck you want to call it, as momentum also to start to really get used up within this region. So here's what I like about this for continuation of the downside, and then we'll kind of cover up the lower term timeframes, which I think could be another test back up to the lower $7,000 number. Anyways, looking at this right here, we do see that momentum oscillators are going to start to turn down. We see daily Stokes are going to confirm a twist to the downside with any close here or lower by end of day. I'd say especially anything below about the 10 simple moving averages we see right here, which is a little bit above $7,000. It will naturally turn down, and also Bitcoin will lose the RSI, or sorry, the exponential on the RSI, which has essentially been governing the lows ever since we put in this area right and over here. And I think that the RSI is very powerful for confirming this formation as a rising channel, as well, as we do see that it's essentially been caught between these two supports and resistances for the last I mean, Jesus Christ, like about a month now. I don't mean to take the Lord's name in vain, especially on this very holy day, or maybe the day next is the holy day, or I'm not sure. It's just my very lazy way of expressing myself. I don't mean any harm by it to the believers out there. Anyways, looking at this right here, is this more of a rising channel? Is it more of a rising wedge? It doesn't fucking matter. At the end of the day, they imply the same thing. Redistribution, getting stopped by the neutral zone and coming back down below the exponential after breaking the bottom support of this, which has been essentially efficacious ever since, about a month ago, a little bit more than a month ago now. So with that said, I do err towards the downside here. The problem is that this all happening over the weekend does make me concerned that this is perhaps a little bit of a fake out. So let's go over the fake out scenario right here. We need to go back down to the lower term timeframes and put the focus on especially this area right around $7,000, which is essentially around the death cross / golden cross on the 4-hour dollar time frame. Now, the 4-hour death cross and golden cross has produced significant price action in the past, and it's in my opinion the lowest time frame where that cross really does start to take effect, and it gives a good insight into what the more powerful bots and algos are trying to do in this market. And what we've been looking at for the last week or so is essentially a golden cross in the making right on over here. I did say, though, however, a really classic tactic by the more sophisticated bots and algos in this market, or sorry, in any market for that matter, is to bait the lesser sophisticated bots and algos to get on the wrong side of price action. How do they do that? Well, typically by hinting at and baiting across like this, which gets everyone on the buy programs, especially for the more less sophisticated ones, we'll call them, the ones who are trying to jump the gun on these signals, probably just don't have as good of programming, or just not as good as knowledge to begin with. And what happens right after that? After it gets somewhat confirmed, then big bad girthy red dildo shoved right in our faces as we do cross back down to the downside. So a nice little fake out right in over here. And anytime that we've seen that in the past, typically do get price action produced in that same direction for a continuation drive to the, on that side. In this case would be the downside. So as long as we're below the 200 exponential moving average, and especially the 55, which they're more or less synonymous with each other right now, but if you want to be super exact with it, the 200s a few ticks below 7,000 at 69.80ish region, and the 55s right around 69.75. I mean, they're really pretty much the same right now. So as long as we're below there, I do maintain pressure to the downside, and it's not really until Bitcoin gets back above there where it would naturally cross back up to the upside, of course. But with this little stutter step, as it kind of resolves itself, I would say that we don't really have an example in history with regards to Bitcoin. Of course, other assets are different, but when we're looking at Bitcoin, we want to be relative to Bitcoin, and we don't have any other examples in price action history where we actually do see a quick fake out followed by another quick fake out. Although I do think that this could be, I do want to keep the keep the option back open in my mind's eye. So at the end of the day, if Bitcoin does start to close 4-hour dildos back above about 7,000 and especially 7,100, the exact same areas that we were speaking about yesterday, outlined by this blue box of peace and prosperity or death and destruction, depending upon if you're a Bula or a Bera, who gives a fuck what you are, we're traders here. As long as we're below there, I'm still overall, short-term, medium-term, and long-term bearish. Of course, short-term is going to ebb and flow here. I think that we kind of got that next pop back up after this test down into this targeted area from yesterday, right around 6750. But now is crunch time essentially for the question of, are we going to get continuation or a fake out? And as long as we're below $7,000, I'm obviously bearish. And as long as we're below $7,100 from a more conservative aspect, I can still maintain that stature, and I would still be covering with options anywhere above this region. For all the people who for whatever reason seem to want to know about my positions, I don't think that you should really be concerned about my positions, because at the end of the day, I mean, it's important to be talking about my positions because I do want to confirm myself. But then again, I also have a very lengthy playlist titled live trades and technical analysis where that's for. I want to kind of back away from that now because I think it kind of implies the wrong sort of thing with this channel. But more importantly, I can explain myself, but at the end of the day, if you're not trading on the exact same edges and using the exact same tools, meaning options and also whatever technical analysis edge you're using right here, then it needs to be special. It needs to be personalized towards your style. Otherwise, the plan is based off of missing parts, which you can't have a plan without at least three things. At the very fucking basis, three things: entry, exit, entry, position management, and risk management, essentially. And then, of course, you can extrapolate much more, but at the very fucking base, if you don't have that, you don't have a fucking plan. So at the end of the day, my risk management's up above here. And I would just cover with options, as that is my preferred way of doing things. Being a former market maker in options and equity options on New York Stock Exchange ARCA, I feel a lot more comfortable doing something like that. Anyways, as it stands right now, yes, there is still pressure onto the downside, but lower term time frame oscillators are going to start to turn around here. So we do see 4-hour Stokes looking like we want to cross back up to the upside, especially from the critical zone, which has been a pretty damn good area in the past. Now, of course, when we do get into more aggressive price action, you can expect it to stay within the bearish control zone. But when we see all the lower term time frame oscillators coming from the same area, I do get skeptical for, at the very least, a test towards our last prior resistance. This is, I've just been going through the 4, 3, and 2 hour. They're literally all coming through the same area. Hourly is going to be getting towards the top of the range, but that suggests that we're going to see a little bit of an ebb and flow here, maybe another test back up towards 7,000. The question is, can Bitcoin actually close a 4-hour dildo back above there? If it can't do it, if it just tests it and rejects from it, then I'd be looking for a range to be created between about 7,000 and 68, we'll call it, down here, just between these two blue boxes. I mean, it's a game of blue boxes. It was blue box here and here before, now it's blue box here and here now, and these are literally the exact same things that we've been looking at for quite some time now. And it can be that simple if you let it be. But for right now, it is important to be aware that historical volatility percentile is very, 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 very low on our lower term timeframes. We're back into single digits, which does suggest we are going to get a move to test the next side of this, probably to the upside, probably relatively soon. I mean, timing is a hard concept to relate, because when it comes to volatility, it's only giving you it's not giving you probabilities, but it's giving you statistics essentially. It's saying that this is like an outlier of low volatility. So you can expect a mean reverting indicator that's quite literally programmed like that to produce a nice move in relationship to what we've seen in the not so distant future, or not so distant past. What I'm trying to say does not imply direction, but momentum oscillators can help with that. And I do believe that we are kind of seeing them suggest that we're going to test perhaps the upside right around here. But that does not necessarily make me bullish for the medium and higher term timeframes. I'm medium and higher term timeframe bearish as long as we are below 1 for medium term timeframes, 7,000, or let's call it 7,100 to be a little bit more conservative, as I do think that being conservative in this region is the right call here. And 2, from a long term perspective, 7,300 on a weekly or monthly close, which I don't want to get too deep into the long term timeframes today, as that's what I want to save for tomorrow's analysis on Sunday, as that's long term analysis day. Anyways, as it stands, if Bitcoin were to get back above 7,100 or even 7,050, 70 or 7,000, anywhere in this blue box right here, I would look for another range to be established between essentially 7,000 and 7,400, just like we saw last week. And I look for a move back up to the top side of the range. And this would just be a little bit of a bear trap right here, slightly below our proverbial support during a weekend and during a period of typically low volatility. So that is certainly very much within the realm of possibility. And I do think that we could very easily have a fake out here. So I'm just going to get rid of this trend line. I don't even think it's all that important, because at the end of the day, if I don't have a diagonal trend line that lines up with the horizontal, then it's probably not legitimate, at least from what I found in my past experience. And what do you know? We have a fucking horizontal meeting up with it. Or if you would just rewind about 10 seconds ago before I deleted it, it would have been aligning right here in the low $7,000 region. So as long as we're below there, I am still overall angled to the downside. However, I do think that we are getting ready for a test somewhere around this region. The question is, does Bitcoin confirm a close above it or not? And that will drive my next sort of pieces of position management. But technically speaking, because we did break that support, that diagonal support of that rising channel, we do see that there is a measured move actually pointed much lower. The problem is, again, because this happened during a weekend, it technically didn't happen during a weekend. Yesterday was Friday, right? But man, this is what makes it difficult. You want it, or at least I want to see it when CMEs are trading, like big areas being broken. So I do think that things actually could reaccumulate here, but because the rest of the world doesn't actually have a holiday during Friday, like I believe the Asian countries do not celebrate Easter, and feel free to correct me here. I'm completely ignorant to the topic. I don't fucking know, but I'm just guessing, as I do believe that Japan was trading yesterday at the very least. Then perhaps that could kind of change the scenario. So that would be one contingent that I think it's rational to be aware about, because, well, that would slightly change the dynamics here. It's not just like your cut and dry weekend. It was a Friday. Most major markets were not trading. Some were. Forex was trading. CMEs were not trading. So I'm kind of like flying blind here. I don't really have a way to look at this long term, as this is kind of a more unique situation. Anyways, I'm going to get rid of this one right here as well while we're here. But technically speaking, the measure move would be pointed all the way down towards about 5100 or 5150-ish region, which is interesting because it does not imply new lows. So I do believe that now I can no longer say I have a way forwards for being angled towards new lows. That was thrown by the wayside this past week. And while coming back down at 5150 would certainly offer up some new possibilities, we would have, or at least I would have to, as a trader, wait for things to kind of come back down there, then formulate something new, and then reanalyze it, if that's the word, and then perhaps lower targets would be initiated. But for now, that's not really what I'm looking towards. More importantly, there would be bounces along the way, regardless of whether I'm bullish or bearish. One big one that I should be focusing on right here, and I'd like to kind of redraw these lines, as I believe that it's more accurately bespoken in this range right here, in line with the 4-hour 200 simple. And also coming off of this sort of order block territory right here. I'm sure if we went down to a higher, if we went up to a higher term time frame, you'd see it right there. Naturally going to align in this region right around about 6350 to 6450-ish region. So Bitcoin does break below its current low. If it even takes out the low that we saw yesterday, or I guess last night at 6750, then I would look for this to have another, like $200 to $400 move to the downside, which at this price point at a $6,000 level, from a trader's perspective, that's a almost 5% move, or maybe a little bit more. Very fucking tradable. I know for the moon boys and doom boys out there, they don't give a fuck about that. That's not who this channel is focused on. So fair enough. There's plenty of other people out there who will hodl your hands, telling you that the moon is always coming, or that the doom is always coming. It's not what that's not what traders are focused on. We're focused on like edges, and more importantly, statistical edges, which in this case, I do believe that this has been accurately getting it pretty damn well. Then after a small bounce here, I'd look for things to likely come all the way back down to our next level, all the way down in the $5,900 region, in this blue box right here. Probably another small bounce in that region. Could we see a reversal from there? Yes. Do want to keep an open mind. Could happen, but I need to see proof, not promises first, and then presumptively speaking, I look for another leg down towards the 55 to 5600-ish level, another $500 move, of course. Again, even more tradable at this price point, because now it's a 10% move almost, and now it'd also be the weekly 200 simple, and then 5150 right below that. So we do have a way forwards now. However, lower term time frame also just kind of getting sluggish within this region is going to offer up a little bit more of a patient style right now, as essentially what I'm waiting for is Bitcoin's probably is very likely to create a range between $6,750 and $7,000 right now. The longer that it goes goes sideways here without breaking back up above 7,000 or especially 7,100, the more that it will get inherently bearish, as momentum oscillators will start to get used up after getting stuck in the bearish control zone, and then the medium and higher term time frame oscillators come into question. And where were they? Well, as we kind of spoke about yesterday in this very one-sided conversation, but as we did mention yesterday, 12-hour STO is coming down from a very critical region. In fact, we do have this lovely trend line right on over here, which would suggest that we probably do test it, which funnily enough is right around the edge of the bearish control zone. So it doesn't necessarily imply that we are going to break it or anything like that, but it doesn't imply that if we get around there, I would be looking for a short-term, medium-term bouncy bounce. Probably a good place to be closing. Presumptively speaking, we haven't necessarily got there yet, and I want to see price action first and foremost. As always, you don't know how much damage can be done between getting from here to there, of course. Also, the daily, as we just spoke about, is going to confirm a cross down at the same time, later tonight. At close at 8 p.m. Eastern time, I believe it is. And so if those two things are operating together and Bitcoin does close, especially below the 21, then I would say that it's extremely likely we will see back below 6,000 this coming week or the week after that, whatever it ends up being. I don't really, timing of these sorts of things, not important. What's more important is actually just getting level by level as well. I think that's just the easier way to do it right now, unless you have access to all of our volatility metrics down here. Anyways, on top of that, like we said, Bitcoin on daily RSI losing the exponential, and we've been riding it up the whole way. Could it pop back up for a quick stint above? Yeah, maybe. And if it does, I'd look for Bitcoin to take out the 10 symbol to the upside. Now, here's the other obvious way of getting this as a fake out back up to the upside, getting ready for a move back up to 7,400 and maybe even beyond towards 79, 8,000-ish region. And I would be looking for that to happen if Bitcoin, or at least open to that possibility, Bitcoin closes above the 10 symbol today, which again is a little bit above $7,000. So it's going to be a long day. And seeing as it's a Saturday, well, a lot of bullshit most likely as well to be aware of. But for right now, let's go check out the 2-day as well. I'm curious what this one's printing. Yes, we did hit the 10 simple. That was our target yesterday, right around 6,750, bouncing up above it for right now. But more importantly, on the 2-day, this still outlines my long-term bias here, because Bitcoin did put in a nice proverbial local top from what we're looking at. And let me just get rid of everything, or actually, let's keep those on. Okay. All right. So we have 4 moving averages here. We have the death cross moving averages, and then we have the yellow and the blue, which is the 21 and the 377 respectively. So Bitcoin confirming a local top right here, but taking out the low of it, which we saw yesterday, right before yesterday's video was posted. Which essentially initiated my trade, means that I'm going to be essentially long-term bearish as long as Bitcoin's operating below the 21. Have we gotten a close below the 21? No, we haven't actually. In fact, as of right now, we will be closing later tonight. We will be confirming this area. Let me just make sure that this is still online. Okay, cool, great. But technically speaking, it's not happened just yet. So if Bitcoin were to close back above the 21 today, which is of course right, above 50-ish region, then I would, I would pause being bearish at least for the medium and short term, and I'd look for another move back up to the tops of the range 7,400. But looking at the 2-day right here, there's a lot of things of interest. As long as we are below the 21, and if especially we can confirm a close below the 21 today, which again is right around 70.69. Wait, what the fuck is going over there? Okay, cool, whatever. My computer is making all sorts of weird noises. Then I would be looking for this to tumble on over, as we've seen in the past. Death cross right on over here between the green 55 and the 200. And by the way, the longer that we are below the 21, the more and more divergence and the more and more the velocity of these getting away from each other, which, by the way, Bali, if you're listening, which I know that you probably are, that would be another great indicator to be looking at, the velocity of differential between two moving averages, kind of measuring the rate of change. Then again, I mean, we probably have better metrics to already measure that, so actually probably scrap that idea. But nonetheless, we can see it with our naked eyes, which is fine. And we do see that these are diverging more and more away from each other, telling us that the bots and algos are turning on their sell programs and are strengthening this cross, which happened right on over here. And as long as we're below the 21, I do look at that as pressure on, especially especially if we can close below there today. So let's go back in history again. Look at these both to the upside and the downside. The golden cross to the upside, absolutely beautiful, taking you all the way from 7,000 to 14,000. Absolutely amazing. Glory times. Before that, we do have 2018, of course, a similar situation where we had a death cross running over here, relatively far away from price action. Bitcoin pops back up, has a short stint above the 21, and then never gets an open and close above it until the inevitable dooms drop is finished. And Bitcoin does test the 55 once, and even you could even say twice right over here, and then eventually plays out the dooms drop of about 50 to 51% to the downside, right? And that's, that gives us a little bit of a way forwards. Then, of course, another golden cross all the way from 2015 to 2018, glory times once again from 300 to 20,000. And then the only other cross that we've seen in Bitcoin history. So we have 3 examples now. 3 times does make a trend. And technically, we're only operating off of 2 right here. So that, that's a good counterpoint to what I'm saying for all the naysayers out there. But a very similar situation to what we had right over here. Gets a death cross very far away from price action, slowly but surely kind of gets ground down. Bitcoin gets another, basically exit pump right on over here, right alongside the 55. So both the prior situations did test the 55 pretty much formally, and this one even testing the 200. And then once it gets ground down below the 21 once again, and then the 21 crosses to the downside of the 377, all of them having a negative slope at the same time. These are all key critical components of this. And then what do you know, from top to bottom, from that last price point, we have another, 50, little bit north of 50% plus drop to the downside initiated. So that's essentially what I'm looking at right here, and what I would be defensive against on the long term. And just playing around with numbers, if it were to actually happen from this price point, what would a 50% drop look like from this price point? Well, if you guessed all the way down to the mid 3,000s, you would be exactly right, because you've probably been watching these videos, or you are already doing this yourself, and we've seen this done a million fucking times. What's interesting about that price level is that that's actually around where our lower gap is on CME. It's going all the way back towards CME in February of last year, having a gap right around about 3550 to 3600ish region. Not only that, but if we actually go back out to our higher term timeframes on Bitstamp, which actually has enough price action to populate these things, we do see the 377 exponential average on the weekly, which is incredibly important in traditional markets. Really fucking important in traditional markets, outlining that area actually almost to the fucking T. In fact, if you want to get super exact with it, it's $3,562.18, which would quite literally be right on there. So so is it possible that Bitcoin goes back down there? Yeah, absolutely. Not only that, on the weekly right here, we do see the 21 crossing the downside of the 55. Again, a very, very similar cross, but because it is on a higher term time frame, I do put more weight on it. And, similar results in the past coming from similar areas, albeit a little bit lesser, because it does take into effect more data. So we have this example right here in October, a little bit after we got the 2-day dildo death cross, and then boom, same results. And then same thing, before that as well, back on over here in 2014, 2015. Not only that, but something that I pretty much never talk about this, because I think that this indicator is just so unbelievably misunderstood. It's so unbelievably misunderstood. Oh, by the way, let's see what the volume profile is as well. Well, let's just, we do see a nice thick AF node coming in right around the mid 3,000s, upper 3,000s, right around here, and again in the mid 2,000s. Interesting, just of note, if Bitcoin does head back down around there, like I said, a lot of things need to happen for me to really angle my trades back down towards this region, but well, we don't have too much else to talk about, so might as well talk about this bullshit. Anyways, what about the 3-day? What are we looking at on the 3-day? The 3-day looks like so far a rejection of the 21. As long as the 21 has a negative slope, I'm not bullish here either. We did take out the last 3-day low right on over here as well. So is this one closing today? No, it is not. Yes, it is actually. Sorry, it is. It is closing today at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So keep an eye on this one as well. This one actually looks a little bit less bearish than the other ones. I'm curious where the 200 simple is coming in, because I figure that's going to be a good level to be watching as well. What do you know? It's right around about 7,100-ish region. I do believe that 7,000, 7,100-ish region, very, 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 very important. We could very easily have a fake out here again to back up to the upside for a short move up towards 8,000 ish, we'll call it, or 7,900 if you want to be more exact. Anyways, now, like I said, I don't really watch this indicator all that much. I think it's massively misunderstood, but I think that it's a little bit interesting here. If we go over to the MACD, the good old McDonald's indicator, which people think that the way to use the MACD is just waiting for the cross. We just wait for the cross and that's it. And then it's easy. It's easy mode, right? Well, no, it's actually not. That's actually not the way to use it, but use it in conjunction with, major supporting resistance levels. And when you see the momentum crossing while momentum is being gained, that's usually a very good sign that you're going to have a very, 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 very big break. Now, we do have monthly MACD turning down once again, which the only other time we've seen in history it actually crossed to the downside was back on over here, June 2018, precipitating the next, 4 or 5 months before this price action from here in the breakdown of below the 21 right here. Well, we have a similar thing running over here. We see a cross running over here after a little bit of a stint of fake outs, but this secondary cross actually much more important. Why is it more important? Because Bitcoin is now losing a major, massive structural support at the 21 exponential moving average. And as I've been saying, for the long term, the macro, as long as Bitcoin's below the 21, I am not bearish on a monthly closing basis. Bitcoin had a test up to it this month thus far. Thus far, it has been rejected. It's also really fucking early in this month to be judging this, but as it stands, we are living below 7,300 quite healthily. So as long as Bitcoin's below there, I still do angle myself to the downside, seeing as the MACD is kind of crossing the downside as well, as we break that critical support with last March's monthly close. That is indicative that I do think that we probably are going to, test a little bit more downside here. Looking at monthly Stokes, nosediving after rejection of the bullish control zone. I think that is quite enlightening as well. And on top of that, we do see monthly RSI losing the exponential and really kind of weird signature here. Stuck in the neutral zone. I do think it's very possible we could easily test the exponential on it, which would imply test probably back up to $8,000. So I still think that it's actually in the possibilities of Bitcoin price action to test back up to 7,900, $8,000. We'll look at probabilities later to kind of confirm that if it is still likely. But overall, I do believe we're gonna before this is all said and done, we will very likely base around the edge of the bearish control zone once again. If Bitcoin gets stuck in that region, which it has never done in the history of history essentially, then I would get extremely bearish, and that's when I actually do start to join the crowd of saying, okay, not only is it likely that we go back down to last year's low at 3,100, but maybe even new lows on top of that towards the mid to low 2000s. Again, has a lot of work to do before I join that conversation, but we have tested this area once, twice, thrice, 4 times, 5 times. Does not make a fucking charm. Well, unless you're bearish, and then it makes a fucking massive charm because it's probably gonna break. Anyways, what else do we want to look? I'm curious now. Okay, so I mentioned the RSI crossing below the exponential right here. Now, Bali's new tool is incredibly useful because it's actually going to tell me at what price point would Bitcoin need to get to in order to get back above the exponential on the RSI. So it's kind of like the reverse Stoke cross, but on the other side. And what do you know? It's right around 83.50. That's actually about where the 10 simple is. If I had the 10 simple on this chart, let's go look at it right here. And that, oh yeah, it's fucking right there. Oh, beautiful. Oh my God. Boy, this shit works. This is great. This is amazing. And for the monthly Stokes, we need to get back above about 84.30. So this is all, right around major areas, and we should naturally see these things collide, which is good for confluence and typically, outlines a more dynamic trading strategy. So really appreciative for these tools because that is incredibly useful. We can actually go over to the daily as well. And remember, let me get rid of the McDonald's over here. By the way, McDonald's losing momentum as we do get a little bit of bearish divergence on the MACD histogram right here. Man, I'm getting deeper into the MACD right now. The MACD is actually a really useful tool if you know how to use it. The problem is that no one knows how to fucking use it. I mean, not no one knows how to fucking use it, but I'm sure most people just think it's like cross and good. No, not necessarily. But we are breaking a support here as well, as that is kind of hinting at a cross to the downside. Just saying. Anyways, while we are here, let's take everything off and look at those same metrics from this area. Again, credit to Bali for this one. Bitcoin, in order to get back above the exponential on the RSI, needs to go back above 7,300. So that would be the top side of that of the prior range. So is it likely? Well, we can look at probabilities in just a second here. but I would say, some work needs to be done first. And for the Stoke, or sorry, no, sorry, that's for the Stoke, 7,300. So that would still be, ranging us back up to the upside. And that's when I actually do start to look at 7,800 to $8,000 region as a, as a next destination. For the RSI, we just need to get back above about $7,000. So outlining both the most important areas, 7,000 for the medium and lower term timeframes, 7,400 for the higher term timeframes. Anyways, so let's take these babies off for right now, and let's go back to our low time frame chart right here on GDAX. Put back on our drawing tools. Look at the blue boxes of peace and prosperity or death and destruction, again, depending upon which side you align with. And let's see what the probabilities are of one getting above. I'll use the more conservative range for the lower term timeframes to the upside at 70.50. Let's just make, about 70.50. I'll put it there. Medium and higher term time frame, 7,400. We'll look at that one as well. We'll look for the downside continuation, 67.50 is where I'd be looking towards to initiate a move down towards 64.50 to 63.50. And I think that's going to do it for most of those. So let's go on over here. Let's see what it has. All right, is this actually updated? I think it is updating. That's awesome. Oh, and the pig as well. I need to give credit to the pig. The pig is the man as well. He's the new kid on the block, and he's a young kid out there from Australia, and he has Bali's respect, which means that I respect him as well, because apparently he's a new boy wonder right now, which is very, very cool. And we are lucky to be in good terms with people like that, because these mathematically minded people can go and take the next step further to moi. Elsa is going to go get some steak right now. Absolutely beautiful. Fucking love my girlfriend. And we can now mathematically prove what I think were more ephemeral and floating concepts before, which ties everything in, and then make relationships between each other. And then at some point we could probably even make correlations between these as well, which is going to take that to the next level on top of which indicators you in conjunction with which indicators, which time, which is just, it's going to be fucking mind blowing, I think. Anyways, this is like my wet dreams. this is what I dream about at night. All right, so where is my probability panel right here? I need to move it over to the right. Let's see, what would that be? The x-axis, let me put it around like a -20 or something like that, so we can get it in view. There we go. All right, cool. So we're looking at a daily right now. Let's make those ranges once again, the ones that we want to be aware of. So 67.50 to the downside, 67.50 to the downside. To the upside, I'll leave it at 7,100 just to give it its due diligence. Again, a little bit higher, a little bit more conservative, just like the downside. And the upside probability on today's daily closure is about 35%, and to the downside is 31.5%. So you've actually slowly but surely seen the probabilities of the upside get diminished from like this whole week, whereas above 50% to now around 35%. So as we've been saying, the more hesitation at 7,300, the more and more inherently bearish it does get, or maybe I should say 7,400. We could also do this on a 12-hour as well. 12-hour showing a little bit less than 15% to the upside, and this is very interesting here. A little bit less than 15% to the upside above 7,100, and to the downside. We have 26.5%, which I think is incredibly interesting as well. Now we can look at this a couple different ways. I can use it with current, or I can use it with futures. I can use it with future bars. This is gonna change the calculations a little bit here, but overall, I think that both show about the same narrative. Actually, no, the narrative changes a little bit on the future ones for the above target probability, but I think right now current is actually what we should be looking at. Although you can make the argument for both sides, but I want to be consistent with what I've been showing for the last few weeks, and to do that, I need to keep it on this one right here. Anyways, with that said, the low side probability target now going to be 26.5% on this next 12-hour total closure. So if we actually do close below there, which technically is a little bit more, which is more likely, then I would look for that continuation drive, another $300-$400 lower for 6, maybe 7% move. Doing some bad mental math right now, maybe a little bit lower than that. So yeah. Okay, let's actually extend this out a little bit more. So to the upside, remember, 7,100 is only relevant for the lower term timeframes and kind of medium term timeframes as well. 7,400 is still the area that I'd look for to kind of confirm that next leg up to the upper 7,000s, like 7,800 to 7,900 to 8,000-ish region. And 7,400 is extremely low probability on the next 12-hour close, like literally less than 1%. And the downside target still remains about the same. On a daily, it's going to be, the daily's coming, is going to be much less as well. So it's even more important from the daily now from this area, because we've been standardizing for the $70 to $400 region for the next leg up, right? And over the last week, we saw it literally go from, maybe 50, 60% down to now 13.5%. So as we've been saying, the more hesitation here, the more inherently bearish this does get. And the below target probability, 31.5%, as it shouldn't change. So there we go. And more important, or maybe not more importantly, but as we've been talking about as well, the rings on this have also started to collapse and really accelerate to the downside, or sorry, not accelerate to the downside, but they were obviously more angled to the upside as of the last few days. Now they're really converging on each other. So the way that I read this is that volatility is collapsing, which does suggest that we're in a contraction phase, which obviously is confirmed when we look at our straight up, metrics over here. We can see that very, very easily, from looking at it like something like this, right? Nice steady decline over the last month or so, and that suggests that we are going to see a big bad break relatively soon. We can further confirm this probably by looking at like Bollinger Bands or something, which I'd imagine are starting to get relatively tight here. And yeah, they are starting to tighten up after a very expanded phase again from early March to kind of where we are right now. So could we spend more time going sideways within this region without actually breaking any major areas? Yeah, absolutely. But I would look for a test down to 6,000 or maybe 5,900 if Bitcoin does overall break let's call it about 6,750 on a daily closing basis. Extremely likely in my opinion to see that continuation drive down around there alongside momentum also just turning down at the same time. The question is, could that be a reversal point for Bitcoin? I do think that it is wise to keep an open mind with those sorts of areas because it matters. I mean, it matters. You always see fake outs everywhere, and I don't want to get too, and I do still want to go, and stick with my strategy of just going level to level, essentially. Anyways, I want to make sure that this video is, oh wow, it's already 40 fucking minutes long. Holy shit. We don't have anything to update on traditional markets. That also traditional markets is what makes me a little bit more cautious towards being a little bit too bearish as well, because we do see these things moving together, as we've been showing for a long time now. We actually did have it's not like a bad it's a doji little close on Thursday. Could be a sign of indecision reversal. We basically hit our target to the upside. It said 283. We got up to 281 and a quarter. Close enough is close enough as far as I'm concerned. Volume kind of tailing off on this metrics, which does suggest that this is likely one piece of the whole as well. I guess I already got it in there. Some sort of a rising channel, which does work a lot better. A rising wedge, which does work a lot better on traditional markets, in my opinion, or at least from what I've seen. And we have massive hidden bearish divergence between going all the way up to this point, actually running over here above $300 and where we are right now. So if this confirms as a local high, I'd look for a quick move down, back down to about 260-ish region. That would be confirmed if we take out the low of it at 275.5. And we're gonna have to wait until Monday to get that. So it's a little bit of waiting here. So not really worth talking about right now. Let's look at Mr. Butyrol really quick. Mr. Butyrol looking a little bit, looking like he might pop back up to 166, but I do think that this one's getting ready to push a little bit lower as well. Gonna follow whatever Bitcoin does at the end of the day. Getting rejected by the 200 simple, is not necessarily the best thing either. And looking at Mrs. Litecoin, same thing. Mrs. Litecoin actually broke both major moving averages here, and I would say that any sort of a daily close below $42.5, and we actually did target that move yesterday, I believe, or 2 days ago, I believe. So that has been hit, but any sort of a daily little close below $42.5, and I would look for extension all the way down here towards 30. What is this? 38 to 39. Yeah, 38 to 39, I guess, and probably continuation below, and same sort of setup on all the momentum oscillators here as well. Other than that, not really anything to talk about at traditional markets. They aren't trading. And is there anything else that we want to talk? Let's maybe take a quick look at Bitcoin versus yen. Bitcoin versus yen looks pretty much the same as spot U.S. markets. Bitcoin versus Korean won, same thing, more or less. I don't really see anything of true note here. So overall, kind of the same, kind of just a continuation of yesterday's analysis. As long as Bitcoin's below about 70.50 and even more conservatively speaking, 7,100, I am looking at this for having overall continuation. But because this did happen technically during a time when some of the world wasn't trading, do I think that this could be a fake out? Yeah, it could be a fake out. If we do pop back above this region, I would look for extension all the way back up to 73, 74-ish region, and this is going to look a lot overall better, at least for another try to the upside. By the same token, any sort of a 4-hour little closure below 6750, even closing below like 6,800, probably bad enough in my opinion, or even just taking out this low right on over here. And I would look for another drive lower towards the 6,400-ish range, give or take about $50, we'll call it, and probably another small bounce there. But seeing as momentum oscillators are turning up on the lower term time frames, I do think that Bitcoin is going to get at least a little bit of sideways here and probably test the lower $7,000 region. And the real question is, can it hold that area or not? As long as Bitcoin is below $7,000 on a 4-hour total closing basis, this gets more and more bearish over time, and medium and higher term time frames starting to catch up does make me err towards sides, continue to err towards the sides of the downside. Anyways, I think that's going to do it for right now. I'm going to go eat a shit ton of steak. Motherfucker, where did my camera go? What is going on? What is going on today? This is madness. No, this is crypto. Anyways, I'm gonna be signing off right now, and I'll be back on Twitch in just a few hours here. So take care, and until next time.